I knew something was wrong the moment the flight attendant pressed that tiny, folded napkin into my hand and whispered, "Pretend you're sick." "Get off this plane!" My heart slammed against my ribs, because her eyes weren't just serious, they were terrified. And I had no idea why. Was I wrong for ignoring her? Or would you have done the same thing? Because what happened next has changed the way I will ever step on a plane again. I wasn't supposed to be on that flight in the first place. It was a last-minute booking, the result of a business meeting ending early, and my boss insisting. I fly home instead of staying another night. I was tired, stressed, and honestly just desperate to sleep in my own bed. I wasn't expecting drama. I wasn't expecting danger. And I definitely wasn't expecting to be pulled into the kind of situation you only hear about in documentaries. But let me back up a little so you understand how everything spiraled into the chaos that was about to unfold. I got to the airport with maybe 20 minutes to spare, rushing through security, practically throwing my shoes back on as I jogged toward the gate. I was the second to last person to board, sweaty, flustered, and juggling my backpack, jacket, and a cup of overpriced burnt coffee. The flight was full. Completely full. Children crying, people arguing over overhead bin space. The usual travel nightmare. But the moment I stepped onto the plane, I noticed something. 2 men standing near the back row whispering to each other. They didn't look like regular passengers. They were stiff, alert, like they were scanning the plane instead of just waiting for seats. I didn't think much of it at first. You see strange people on planes all the time. But when I walked down the aisle to my seat, I noticed the same 2 men following me with their eyes, and I got a strange chill. I took my seat, deeply exhaling, trying to shake off the feeling. I told myself it was nothing, just paranoia from not sleeping well the night before. But even then, my instincts were whispering something was off. The plane door closed. The announcements started. The attendants walked up and down the aisle with their usual safety demonstration smiles, except one, the one who later gave me the napkin. She kept glancing in my direction, almost nervously checking on me like she was waiting for something. She would move to one row, say something to a passenger, nod and then look back at me, over and over. At first I thought maybe she recognized me, or maybe I had something embarrassing stuck to my face. I actually checked my reflection in my phone screen to make sure I wasn't losing my mind. About 20 minutes later, drink service started. She came to my row, handed me a water, and slipped me that small crumpled napkin. I didn't open it immediately, because she was staring at me with this look like she expected me to. "Jump up and run." When our eyes met, she mouthed, "Read it." No smile. No casual friendliness, just urgency. I unfolded the napkin slowly, trying not to draw attention. Written in shaky pen were the words, "Pretend you're sick." "Get off this plane!" My stomach dropped. I looked at her again, but she had already moved on. I felt a rush of panic rise through my chest. Why me? What did she see? Did I look like someone who needed to be removed? Or did she know something about the flight? Something dangerous? I kept telling myself, this can't be real. She must have confused me with someone else. But every few minutes, she'd glance back at me again, silently urging me to act. I could feel the eyes of those 2 men behind me too. They kept shifting in their seats, whispering, looking at me, looking at the attendant. Their behavior was too synchronized to ignore now, but I didn't get up. I ignored her warning. I told myself I didn't want to cause a scene. I didn't want to look crazy. Everyone was already tense and crammed together, and the idea of making 50 people wait while I faked being sick felt humiliating. And honestly, I didn't believe it. I convinced myself she made some kind of mistake, or maybe she was dealing with her own personal emergency and panicked. But the moment I ignored it, things escalated. About 40 minutes into the flight, she came back to me with an expression like she wanted to shake me. She leaned in and whispered, "Why didn't you say something? You need to tell me if you're feeling dizzy or faint." She was giving me another chance. I could hear the real fear in her voice. My heart was pounding so loud I thought people around me might hear it. But again, I froze. I shook my head, told her I was fine. She looked like she wanted to argue, but a call from the front pulled her away. The 2 men behind me suddenly got restless. They stood up, sat down, stood up again. A flight attendant told them to remain seated, but they ignored her. They kept staring ahead toward me. That was when I realized something might actually happen, something bad, and I was right in the middle of it. About an hour into the flight, the captain announced turbulence, but it wasn't turbulence. The plane was steady, no shaking, no bumps. But suddenly, all the flight attendants strapped into their jump seats, which I had never seen happen for light. Turbulence. The one who warned me looked pale, gripping her harness so tightly her knuckles were white. The two men behind me stood up again, and this time one of them stepped into the aisle. He started walking toward the front, ignoring the attendants yelling at him to sit. The other stood guard near my row, blocking the aisle. My pulse skyrocketed. I realized then what the attendant was trying to prevent me from getting dragged into. Before I continue, I want to pause and ask you, what would you have done in my place? If someone handed you a napkin saying to pretend to be sick, would you have listened? Or would you have ignored it like I did, thinking it was some mix-up? Because this was the moment everything clicked for me, and I realized I might have made a terrible mistake. Comment below what you would have done. The moment the first man reached the front rows, the cockpit door clicked. Loudly. He froze. The attendants all stiffened. That's when I realized the captain had locked the door early because they had been warned. The attendants must have known something before the flight even took off. Maybe a tip, maybe intel, maybe something about these two men. The man lunged forward anyway, grabbing the arm of a passenger trying to stand. People screamed. The second man near me shoved past my seat, knocking my water to the floor. My instincts finally kicked in. I ducked down, covering my head, terrified. In seconds, the aisle became chaos, shouting, struggling, passengers crying. The flight attendants fought back, professionally, strategically. They had training. They knew these men were targeting the cockpit. The one who gave me the napkin yelled for me to get down, her voice trembling. Passengers assisted, grabbing the men, forcing them backward. Someone, maybe the air marshal, I'm not sure, tackled the first man to the ground. The second man was restrained with zip ties that seemed to appear out of nowhere. It felt like a movie scene, except I was living it. Heart in my throat, shaking. After they were subdued, the attendants came down the aisle, checking everyone, calming people, assessing injuries. When she reached me, the attendant crouched and whispered, "I told you to get off because your seat was right in their path. They planned to use you as leverage." She showed me a photo on her phone, a blurry airport security still shot. It was me walking past those two men in the terminal. They had been tracking someone who looked like me. Same bag, same jacket, same hair length. I had unknowingly walked right into their radar. My body went cold, completely numb. She told me they received a last-minute alert that these men were flagged for suspicious behavior and believed to be attempting to storm a cockpit midair. But the alert came too late, after boarding. She wasn't allowed to tell me directly what was happening, so she tried to get me off quietly, but when I didn't play along, I ended up right in harm's way. When we landed, FBI agents and airport security rushed onto the plane. Passengers were kept seated while the men were escorted out screaming in a language I didn't understand. I watched them look at me as they were taken away, and I shivered from how close I had been to disaster. I was questioned for hours, what I saw, what I heard, if I had interacted with the men before boarding. I told them everything. The attendants backed up my story, and they praised her for reacting fast, enough to prevent the situation from escalating further. The agent told me that if the cockpit door hadn't been locked early, things might have ended differently, much differently. On my Uber home, I stared out the window in silence, replaying every moment, the napkin, her eyes, the whisper, my hesitation. I kept thinking about how close I had been to being used as a hostage or human shield. One tiny decision, getting off the plane, could have changed everything. It still makes my stomach knot when I think about it. Even now, I still wonder, was I stupid for ignoring her? Or did she ask too much without being able to explain? Maybe both. But I'm grateful. Grateful for her bravery, the crew's quick thinking, the marshal's timing, the captain's caution. And grateful that I'm still here to even tell this story. So, if you were on my side and think I wasn't crazy for hesitating, like this video, if you think you would have reacted differently, tell me in the comments. And please subscribe for more stories like this. I'll see you all in the next story.